Warning: tube amplifiers have lethal voltages inside them. Please do not attempt to build, test, or repair these without understanding and following all safety protocols. Hey y'all! Well, we're here for the final episode on our little headphone adapter box. This is not an amplifier. This is an adapter box to connect your headphones safely to a tube amplifier. It's also a great little first project for somebody that's never done any kind of DIY from scratch building. It'll hone your fabrication skills, help you learn how to read a schematic, and get some soldering skills on a project that there's not a lot of investment in. If you end up doing something wrong and messing up the chassis, you're not going to be out a lot of money like you would on a larger project like this. So, really great, fun little project. I want to apologize. Somehow I lost the video, or possibly even forgot to hit record on the camera. I've got the audio, but there's no video of soldering up the first segment of this, but this is such a simple circuit. I don't feel like that's a bust for this whole project, that we can move forward. And I've gone back, videoed like where everything connected with some close-ups, and I think it's not going to be an issue. Anyway, I think this is a useful little device for you headphone users, and soon we're going to start on our little spud amp project, which right now you can see is just an empty box. And so we're going to probably start on that later today. So without any further ado, let's jump into the schematic and show you how this thing operates. We'll start on the left channel and we'll go from the positive side of the left channel through the circuit. So the positive signal comes in and it goes to the center terminal of this DP/DT switch. And these little lines here are showing you that this is a switch that can be switched on this side or this side. So let's follow through. If we have it switched to this left side, it's going to come in, it's going to go to this terminal, it's going to go across to this terminal, goes down, and when you see it jump across this like this little loop, that means it's not connected. So it comes over here and it goes to the speakers on the left positive, and that's all the signal does. So when this switch is set to the left side, both channels, if we follow the right side, it comes in like this, goes down, goes to this center terminal, goes to this side, and to the right speaker out. So when you have it on the flip to the left side, it's just simply bypassing from the amplifier to the speakers. So now if we have it switched to the right side, we come in on this left channel, goes to the center. This time it goes over to this terminal, comes up this way, connected here. This is the 8 ohm, 20 watt dummy load resistor. And follow it down and it's connected to the ground. Now this symbol down here is the chassis ground symbol, or the universal ground symbol. And so this is where that screw is connected to the ground. So we keep following it through. Then it goes through this 100 ohm resistor. Then it goes to the potentiometer. And then it goes to the tip of the headphone jack. So if we follow the other channel, comes in, again to the center, goes to this terminal, goes to the other dummy load, 8 ohm, 20 watt, it's to ground, and then again off the positive of this, goes to the 100 ohm, through the other side of the potentiometer, and to the ring, and then the sleeve of the headphone jack is also connected to the ground. And then over here we have the left and right negative are tied together, comes down. The left and right negative that is going to the speaker, they're all tied together, which are all tied together to this main ground here, where you have the jack ground, you have the grounds for the dummy load resistors, and connected to the chassis. It's all grounded right there. So again, let's just look at one channel. We got the positive and the negative, and a tube amplifier needs to have a load on it at all times. So when we have it in the headphone mode, the load that it has across it at all times is this 8 ohm 20 watt dummy load. Now the purpose of this 100 ohm resistor is we don't want to add any more resistance in parallel with this 8 ohm. And let's say you have some 16 ohm headphones. Well, we don't want them in parallel to the 8 ohm. So with this 100 ohm resistor, the impedance of your headphones is 100 ohms plus whatever your headphones is. The other thing that's important about this 100 ohm resistor is with this type of terminal, some of these jacks, as you're plugging and unplugging them, these two can get shorted together. This and this could, all kinds of stuff can get shorted together momentarily as you're plugging and unplugging the headphones. You always have 100 ohms of protection between this jack and the amplifier. And like I've said, you could leave this potentiometer out, but you cannot leave out this 100 ohm resistor. These are an important part of this circuit. So, hope that helps you understand how this circuit works and what we've built here. And like I said in the intro, the video where I soldered a lot of this wiring up got corrupted. And to keep this from being just a wash, this circuit is so simple. I think I can just point out where all the wires go to and how they're connected, and this should be simple enough for you to duplicate constructing this little box. So the first thing we want to do is connect the two positive inputs, which are on this side of the box. And this green wire is going to be the left in, and you solder it to the end of this terminal, comes across, and it goes to this side of the center terminal on the switch. And we get a yellow wire and bring it from this positive terminal across to the other center terminal on this switch. The next thing I would do is wire up the speaker bypass circuit, which is going to be the two bottom terminals on this switch. And you run the green over and across to this terminal right here. And then you bring the yellow one off the bottom terminal on this side, which is this one down in here. Bring it over, across, and connect it to that binding post right there. So then you have one half of the circuit already wired up, which is the in jacks from the amplifier and then the out jacks to the speakers. So the other wiring that you need to connect up is from this top terminal. Let me tilt this down, or maybe even just turn this around. You might be able to see better the switch. We're going to connect this top terminal on the switch with a little short wire over to this side of the power resistor. And then we're going to run a yellow wire down and across with a 100 ohm resistor soldered to the end of the wire with some heat shrink tubing over it to help support it, and solder it to the bottom terminal on the potentiometer. Then we take the top terminal on the switch, and it goes across and over here to this side of this power resistor. And I believe I have the rest of the video showing all of the rest of the wiring. So hopefully you guys can hook up these, 6 wires without watching me do it on a video. And then I do have the rest of the wiring being shown in the other videos. So let's flip over to those and show you the rest of the wiring to finish up this really simple project. So we ran this top terminal here on the switch down over, and it's got it mounted down low like this. Comes around under this jack and up to this side of this resistor. Then also off this side of this big resistor, we go down, under, across, and to the top terminal on this side of the potentiometer. Again with a 100 ohm resistor. And then we ran the ground, or the sleeve of the jack, up here to this terminal, which is going to be our ground. And the long one of these is the tip, and the short one is the sleeve. The tip goes to the left channel. So this little short one is going to go to the yellow, and this longer one's going to go to the green. And I'm going to hook up just the 1/8 jack to start with, and test it, make sure it all works, and then we can piggyback the 1/4 inch jack in, and then we'll be all done with that. So back here in the back, in the center, we put a 1024 screw with a K-nut, a lug, another K-nut, and it looks like that. And we need to put the 4 jacks across here, and then all of these terminals, this stud, and both sides of this resistor are all tied to ground. And I think I'm going to, for my own enjoyment, I'm going to do that off camera and then come back and show you what it all looks like when I'm done. And I think this is something that y'all will be able to figure out without watching me make every solder joint. So I'll be back in a few. Okay, so here we have the jack wiring done, and I decided to go ahead and continue with just using the solid core wire in the same color codes. And so we have this green wire comes around off of this side of the resistor, comes down to this side of the volume pot, and then this center pin comes up to the long lead on this jack, and then the short one comes to the lower center on the pot that is then to the yellow wire to this channel, and it's connected just like that. And then the last thing is the ground wiring, which starts over here on this side. We have the ground for the jack, comes up to this pin on the resistor, which is grounding the other side of this 8 ohm resistor, and then comes up here. And all I did was strip back some insulation and slide this piece of insulation down, and then strip and slide this down, and then strip and attach it to this chassis ground right here. And then, as you can see on the other side, I did the same thing. We come from the ground on this resistor to this ground, and to the chassis ground. And that's it. And I went ahead and tested it, and it works great. You potentially could leave off this volume pot if you wanted to, and it would simplify the wiring a little bit and just control the volume with the volume control on your amp. But especially if you were going to have this little box sitting remotely next to your listening position, you'd be able to control the volume where you're sitting and fine-tune it there. So the last thing I've got to do is to install the 1/4" jack, which I'm going to do up here in the hole above this, and we'll show you what the finished project looks like after we do that. Okay, so I got the 1/4" jack wired up, and we've got this blue wire that comes from the sleeve or the ground of the jack, and it runs across here and then ties into this ground point over here on the ground side of this power resistor. And then we pulled the yellow wire up from the center terminal of the bottom pot pin, comes up, and it goes to the ring terminal of the jack. And I snipped off this little pin just to get it out of the way of this wire. And then the green wire comes up from the center terminal on the upper part of this potentiometer, and it comes up and goes to the tip terminal on this bottom part of this jack. And we've got everything all wired up. And I tested it, everything works perfect. And then on the back, I got my little label maker, made some labels for the speaker jack so I'd know which pair go to what. And then this is the top of it. I do have a silver knob ordered, and I think it'll match the front better. And then here's what the front looks like with the 1/8, 1/4, and then this is the headphone or the speaker switch. And I think it's a nice looking little box. Again, I'm going to put some rubber feet on the bottom of it to allow some air to circulate for these power resistors. I'm not sure how hot they'll get, hopefully not very. You probably don't need to turn the volume on your amp up very high to get a nice volume out of your headphones. And this is just a fun little project. So I'm going to flip it over to the final words about this project. Well, I hope you all have enjoyed this build series and this introduction to from scratch do-it-yourself building. This is a very handy little device, especially for you guys that love listening to headphones. And as I've pointed out a couple of times, you can build this thing however you want to lay it out. If you want to make it the footprint of your amp and like set it underneath it and have this sit on top of it, and have your headphone jack like right here with your volume control, you don't even need this volume control on it. Makes the build even simpler. And you can have your headphone jack sitting right here with your amp. Or you can build it like this with the volume control and put this little box over on your desktop or wherever you might be more likely to be using headphones. Maybe it's a chair that you like to sit in. And then you can switch between the headphones and the speakers. Maybe your kids come in the room and they want to watch some TV and you want to listen to your music. Then you can have your headphones plugged into this thing, and it's like when they start making a bunch of noise, you put your headphones on and flip the switch and you're off in your own little world listening to Deanna or whoever you want to listen to. So anyway, I hope y'all have enjoyed this. I've enjoyed making this, and again, it's a simple little project. The parts are cheap. The chassis is really cheap too, especially this little small one that I use. And if you screw up and drill some holes in the wrong place, it's not the end of the world like it might be if you were starting with a $50 or $100 chassis where you drill a hole in it and you're like, you don't have to worry about that with this. So this is a good starter project to do. Even if you're not a big headphone fan, it's an introduction into building something from scratch so you feel more confident in your skills when you decide to take on a larger project, like maybe building an amplifier from scratch or a preamp or something else that I've got on my channel. So I hope you've enjoyed the series, and if you have, please subscribe, please like the video, and we'll see you soon for more DIY audio fun. Have a great day.